Dr. Livesey and the others led me and the captives to Ben's cave. Ben, in his long, lonely wanderings about the island, had found the skeleton. It was he that stole from it. He had found the treasure, and he had dug it up. He had carried it on his back in many weary journeys, from the foot of the tall pine to a cave where it had lain stored in safety since 2 months before the arrival of the Hispaniola. There, inside Ben's cave, I beheld great heaps of coin and stacks of gold bars. That was Flint's treasure that we had come so far to seek, and that had cost already the lives of 17 men from the Hispaniola. How many it had cost in the amassing, what blood and sorrow, what good ships scuttled on the deep, what shame and lies and cruelty, perhaps no man alive could tell. What a supper I had that night, with all my friends around me. And what a meal it was, with Ben Gunn's salted goat, some delicacies, and a bottle of old wine from the Hispaniola. Never, I am sure, were people happier. Silver sat back almost out of the firelight, eating heartily, prompt to spring forward when anything was wanted, even joining quietly in our laughter. The next morning, we fell early to work, for the transportation of this great mass of gold near a mile by land to the beach, and thence 3 miles by boat to the Hispaniola, was a considerable task for us. Therefore, the work pushed on briskly. Ben Gunn came and went with the boat, while the rest piled treasure on the beach. 2 of the gold bars, slung in a rope's end, made a good load for a grown man, one that he was glad to walk slowly with. I was busy all day in the cave, packing money into bread bags. It was a strange collection: doubloons, double guineas, moidores, and sequins. The pictures of all the kings of Europe for the last 100 years. Strange oriental pieces stamped with what looked like bits of spiderweb. Round pieces and square pieces, and pieces bored through the middle, as if to wear them around your neck. Nearly every variety of money in the world, I think. Day after day, this work went on. Each evening, a fortune had been stowed aboard, and another awaiting for the morrow. A council was held, and it was decided that we must desert all the pirates on the island, save Long John, to survive as Ben had done, with the help of some arms and provisions. We left a good stock of powder and a shot, the bulk of the salt goat, a few medicines, and some other necessaries, tools, clothing, a spare sail, a fathom or 2 of rope, and, by the particular desire of the doctor, a handsome present of tobacco. It was our intent to see Silver return to England, brought to justice, and hanged. At last, one fine morning, we weighed anchor and stood out of North Inlet, the same flying colors the captain had flown and fought under at the palisade. Coming through the Narrows, we had to lie very near the southern point, and there we saw the buccaneers kneeling together on a spit of sand, with their arms raised in supplication. It went to all our hearts, I think, to leave them in that wretched state, but we could not risk another mutiny, and to take them home for the gallows would have been a cruel sort of kindness. The doctor hailed them and told them of the stores we had left, and where to find them. But they continued to call us by name, and appeal to us, for God's sake, to be merciful, and not leave them to die in such a place. At last, seeing the ship still bore her course, and was now swiftly drawing out of earshot, one of them leapt to his feet with a hoarse cry, whipped his musket to his shoulder, and sent a shot whistling over Silver's head through the mainsail. After that, we kept under cover of the bulwarks, and when next I looked out, they had disappeared from the spit, and the spit itself had almost melted out of sight in the growing distance. That was the end of that, and before noon, to my inexpressible joy, the highest rock of Treasure Island had sunk into the sea. We were so short of men that everyone had to bear a hand. We laid her head for the nearest port in Spanish America, for we could not risk the voyage home without fresh hands. As it was, what with baffling winds and a couple of fresh gales, we were worn out before we reached it. It was sundown when we cast anchor in a most beautiful landlocked gulf. We were immediately surrounded by boats full of native people selling fruits and vegetables, and offering to dive for bits of money. The sight of so many good-humored faces, the taste of tropical fruits, and above all the lights that began to shine in the town, made a most charming contrast to our dark and bloody sojourn on the island. The doctor and the squire, taking me along with them, went ashore, where they met the captain of the English man-of-war and boarded his ship. Day was breaking when we came alongside the Hispaniola. Ben Gunn was on deck alone, and as soon as we came on board, he made a confession. Silver was gone. Ben Gunn had connived his escape in a shore boat some hours ago, and he now assured us he had done so to preserve our lives, which would certainly have been forfeit if that man with one leg had stayed aboard. But this was not all. The sea cook had taken one of the sacks of coins, worth perhaps 300 or 400 guineas, to help him on his further wanderings. I think we were all pleased to be so cheaply quit of him. Well, to make a long story short, we got a few hands on board, made a good cruise home, and the Hispaniola finally reached Bristol. 5 men only, of those who had sailed, returned with her. All of us had an ample share of the treasure, and used it wisely or foolishly, according to our natures. Captain Smollett retired from the sea. As for Ben Gunn, he got £1,000, which he spent, or lost, in 19 days, for he was back begging on the 20th. Then he was given a lodge to keep. He is a great favorite, though, teased a lot by his friends, and is a notable singer in church on Sundays and saint days. Of Silver we heard no more. That formidable seafaring man with one leg has at last gone clean out of my life. I dare say he met his wife, and perhaps still lives in comfort with her and Captain Flint. It is to be hoped so, I suppose, for his chances of comfort in another world are very small. I vowed that nothing could bring me back again to that accursed island. The worst dreams I ever have are when I hear the surf booming about its coasts, or when I start upright in bed, with the voice of Captain Flint the parrot still ringing in my ears. Pieces of 8, pieces of 8.